Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Are we ready to go? Someone kindly confirm? Yes. 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 So many people can hear. Vandeham Shri Guru, Shri Judapada Kamalam, Shri Gurun, Vaishnavangsha. Shri Rupam Shagadajatam Shahagana Raganatam Midang Dang Shajivam Sadaitam Zavadutam Parijanishajam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shibishakangitam Cha Mantra Guru Ajo Tashika Guru Kanta Chorene Age Korea Bandan Banshaka Patru Vyashtakrivajan Devaja Paditanam Pavane Babashnavanamo Namaha Namam Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimati Bhagni Vedanta Swami Iti Namane Namaste Shai Shri Deve Gaudamani Prachane Nirvisheshanamari Prashtata Deshatani Shirpopat Ki Jai. We're beginning today to discuss the incidents which were leading up to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu traveling to Jagannath Puri. Rupshikha is there. We can always go back to Rupshikha. Rupshikha, after this point, is mainly the philosophical teachings, which we can cover anytime. We'll do that. Now, I would like to go back, and particularly with Rathajatra Mahamahotshav coming up in a couple of weeks. We'll begin at this point a new section of discussion. We'll be discussing from Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita by Krishna Das Kaviraj Goswami, Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya Lila, chapter 3. And the chapter is entitled Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's Stay at the House of Advaita Acharya. And it's a very wonderful chapter. We'll see, particularly emphasized in this section, we'll see Mahaprabhu's specific, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's specific attachment to affection towards Gauda Bhaktagan, the devotees in Navadip, in Bengal Bhumi, his attachment for them. Of course, these devotees we know are not just ordinary Vaishnavas or ordinary Vaishnava Brahmins, they're Nitya Siddha, Nitya Mukta. They are eternally liberated souls. And they appeared along with Sri Krishna and Balaram in Vrindavan, Brajendra Nandana Jai, Shachi Shuta Hoilo Shai, that king, the darling of the darling son of the king of Braj, he has become the son of Sachimata. Balaram Hoilo Nitai, and Balaram, he's become Nityananda, and all of the cowherd boys and other Brajavasis that were associating with Krishna. That's also Nitya Lila. They're also existent there. It's also going on constantly, permanently. Radha Krishna Nitya Lila. So they're existent there. And then simultaneously, they're manifest here in Navadip Dham, performing the pastimes of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Prabhu Lila Pit Dham Nitya Hoy. Prabhu Lila Pit Rupe Dham Nitya Hoy. Achincha Shakti Karja Prapanchika Noy. This place, Navadip Dham, where Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appears and performs his pastimes, it is eternally his place of pastime. Prabhu Lila Pit Rupe Nitya Dham Nitya Hoy. Prabhu Lila Pit Rupe, Lila Pit. We have the Jog Pit. It's interesting here in Navadip, Mayapur, Antadip, the Jog Pit. In the other places where the Lord appears, such terms are not used. You have the Janmabhumi of Ramchandra, Janmabhumi, Ayodhya, Janmabhumi is referred to as. And Sri Krishna Janmashtan, Mathura, and Vrindavan, the Janmashtan, Janmabhumi, but Jogpit. Pit means place, Bengali is High Bengali, Pit, place. So Jogpit means Jog means a connection. Jogpit is the place where Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appeared in this world, where the transcendental Supreme Lord, he connects, he enters, he joins, he connects, he becomes part of this world. Of course, he never becomes part of this world because he's always transcendental, but his holy dham, his pastimes, his self, his form, his associates, they all manifest here in this material world. Prabhu Lila Pit Rupe, Dham Nitya Hoy, Dham Prabhu Lila Pit Rupa. It is the form of the place for his pastimes, and is the essence of the Dham. Everything else, these things we see going on is external things. The real Dham, actually, we're not able to see. But by practice of Shraddha Bhakti, Bhagavad Bhakti, then one becomes purified, one's senses become pure. Tato mam tattva gyatva bhishite tat anantaram. At the end of Bhagavad Gita, Krishna explains, then when one is fully Krishna conscious, bhakti mam abhi janadi yavanya shashmi tattata. Tato mam tattato gyatva, when one is fully conscious of me by cultivation of Krishna consciousness, Shraddha Bhakti, Bhagavad Bhakti. What is that? Manmana, think of me, Bhavamad Bhakta. Devote yourself to me. Madhyaji, worship me. Mam namaskaru, bow down to me. Mami vaishashi yuktvavam, in this way being Mame vaishashi yukta, completely connected to me through devotional practice. Atmananmat parayana, he will attain me. So the tato mam tattva gyatva, when one is fully Krishna conscious, when one is absorbed, this takes a lifetime. We may not expect that just within a short time, within a few years, that one can become fully Krishna conscious, considering that with bahut janma, bahuni me batitani janmani taba arjuna, bahut janma, so many lives of forgetfulness of Krishna, so many lives where we're thinking we're this, we're that, sometimes we're American, sometimes we're French, sometimes we're woman, sometimes we're man, sometimes we're dog, sometimes we're camel, sometimes elephant. The human form of life is attained only after wandering through all the other species of life. Brahmanda Brahmate Kona Bhagyavan Jeev. So in this way, in this life, by practicing with the senses, Bhagavad Bhakti, hearing, chanting, remembering, serving Lord Krishna, we can become Krishna conscious. We can revive our Krishna consciousness, revive our love for Krishna, awaken our, revive dormant love for Krishna. Nitya Siddha Krishna Prem Shuddhuka Shravanadi Shuddha Chitte Koraya Udoy is an eruption. The awakening, eruption, Udoy, the arousal. Nitya Siddha Krishna Shravanadi Shuddha Chitte Koraya Udoy. There is the arousal of love of God as a result of Shravanadi, hearing and chanting. Shravanadi Shuddha Chitte, and the heart becomes pure. Koraya Udoy, and then there's arousal of the dormant love of Krishna becomes awakened again by practice of Bhagavad Bhakti. And in this way we can attain perfection of life. So hearing about Krishna is our process, and we're going to hear these there's wonderful pastimes. We were discussing Jogpit, yeah, the place of the Lord's appearance. And the Dham is surcharged of spiritual. We come to the holy Dham and reside here because it's surcharged. Jol Bhumi Brika Adi Shakal Chinmoy. Jol Bhumi Brika Adi Shakal Chinmoy. The water, Jol Bhumi, the earth, Brika, the trees, Shakal Chinmoy. Chinmoy Shakal. They're all spiritual. Achincha Shakti Karja Prapanchikanoi. They're made of the spiritual energy. They're not made of material energy. The trees, the water, the earth in the holy Dham. Navadip Dame Brahmati Jai Pode Pai. Just by walking around Navadip Dham Brahmati Jai Pode Pai, what you attain with every step. Koti Ashvamedha Bal Shardava Shastragai. 10 million, the results of 10 million Ashvamedha Yagyas you receive with every step in Navadip. You see, many Vaishnavas are barefoot. Why? Barefoot, of course, barefoot. With every step, you get the results of 10 million Ashvamedha Yagyas. Yudhishthira Maharaj performed 3. Yudhishthira, Rajashuya Yagya, Ashvamedha Yagya. Yudhishthira Maharaj performed 3. So difficult they are. He performed 3. The emperor of the world, he could perform 3 Ashvamedha Yagyas. Personally advised to by Krishna, and Krishna was personally present there. Now, how difficult that is to perform Ashvamedha Yagya. In Navadip, just by every step, wandering every step, 10 million Ashvamedha Yagyas. Koti Ashvamedha Paul Shadva Shastra Jai. Navadip Brahmati Jai Pode Pode Pai. Now, the Madhya Lila of Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, the Madhya Lila is the middle portion of the middle portion of the Lord's pastimes. in the Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, Adi Lila, the first 12 chapters are very philosophical. First 12 chapters, Adi Lila. They're describing the Sri Chaitanya Bhagavad Tattva and Panchatattva. Sri Chaitanya Bhagavad Tattva and the Panchatattva. The truth of these five personalities. Panchatattva become Krishna Bhakti Rupa, Sharupakam Bhaktavataram Bhaktakyam Namami Bhakti Shaktikam Bhakti Rupa, Chaitanya Bhaktavataram Advaita Thakur, Bhakti Sarupakam Bhaktavataram, the Nityananda Prabhu, the first incarnation, Bhaktavataram, Advaita Acharya, Bhakti Shakti Garada Pandit, Bhaktakyam, Srivas Thakur, all the devotees headed by Srivas Thakur, the truths, the Tattva, Panchatattva, Bhagavad Tattva, as described in the first 12 chapters of Adi Lila, who these persons are, who they are, and the ontological significance, the deep philosophy of the ontological Siddhanta, Goswami Siddhanta, the conclusions of the Goswamis in regard the Bhagavad Tattva, the science of Godhead, as explained by Srila Krishna Das Kaviraj Goswami, the Gaudiya Siddhanta, first 12 chapters of the Adi Lila. And then chapters 13 to 17, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 14 to 17, 13 describes the birth of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Chapters 14 to 17 describe the Navadip Lila. Navadip Lila. Mahaprabhu's pastimes in Navadip Dham. So that includes everything. There's 5 sections, actually. 5 sections. The Bal Lila, Komar Lila, Poganda Lila, Joban Lila. Each being 5-year period. And Kaviraj Goswami has dedicated 1 chapter to each period. Bal Lila, Mahaprabhu's pastimes up to 5 years old, all of the extraordinary pastimes where he's demonstrating his opulence as a supreme personality of Godhead. Evabe nana babe aishajya dekai ballabab prakati or pashtat lukai ballabab prakati. As a child, as an infant, he's aishajya dekai. He's displaying his opulence as the supreme personality of Godhead. He's riding on the shoulders of the thieves, having a joyride, and bewilders them, and they're thinking that they're taking him to their hideout, and they take him to the courtyard of Jagannath Mishra, and he's enjoying. He's manifesting. He's manifesting the sound of ankle bells as he's wandering around the house, the footprints of the Supreme Personality of God. He's enjoying manifesting ankle bells. Why? He's just playing. And the opulence of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, it manifests. He's having fun in a Ganga Jal Kela. He's playing in the Ganges water, Ganga Jal. He's giving so much trouble to the Navadip Brahmins that they cannot take their bath. They have to go several times every day. They have to take a bath because Nimai, he soils them, he spits water on them, throws dust on them, he steals their puja paraphernalia. He disturbs their meditation. And they're so angry, they all gather together and they go to Jagannath Mishra to make a lodge complaint. And Jagannath Mishra, he's very upset. He's walking up and down the bank of the Ganga with a stick. Where is that Nimai? Where is that Nimai? Oh, he's Nimai's friends. And Nimai hasn't come today. We're still waiting for him. What? Jagannath Mishra goes home. He's and then Nimai appears on another path as though he's never just coming straight from school. How is it possible? Jagannath Mishra is thinking, how the Brahmins could not be lying. They're coming and telling me these things. They couldn't be lying. And the Kumaris, the unmarried girls, also Nimai is disturbing them. Ama puja koro, ami devo bar, Ganga, Durga Dashimor, Mahesh Kinka. Worship me. Nimai is a young child. He's saying to the unmarried girls, they're worshipping Lord Shiva to attain a good husband. Nimai comes, he steals the offerings. Naibedda, he takes the garland, he takes the chandan. He says to the girls, just worship me. Ama puja koro, ami devo bar, I will give blessings. Ganga, Durga, Dashimor, Ma Ganga and Ma Durga, they're my maidservants. Mahesh Kinka, Lord Shiva, he's my follower. And the girls are saying, oh, Nimai, stop such joking words. In this way, he's displaying his opulence as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He comes back, Jagannath Mishra is so angry, Nimai comes, he climbs on his lap. It appears that he's never been to the Ganga. Jagannath Mishra is completely bewildered. Putra Darsh Anande Guchilo Pichar. He sees his son, he said, Sachi Kumar, he climbs up. He's been playing in the Ganga for hours, disturbing all the Brahmins. But mystic, he comes appearing as though he hasn't even taken bath. He comes running home, climbs up on the lap of his father, Jagannath embracing Nimai. He forgets everything. He forgets all of the mischief. When Nimai climbs on his lap. He's completely absorbed in affection. Putra darshanande, putra darshanande guchilo bichar. Just seeing his child, he forgets everything. He forgets all of the things that the Brahmins, the complaints that they make, the Kumaris, the complaints. He forgets everything. Adikonda Kota Jay Amrit Shravan, the pastimes of Sri Chaitanya in the Adikonda, in the childhood pastimes. Adikonda Kota Jay Amrit Shravan, Jay Shishu Rupe, Krida Gore Narayan, Shishu Rupe, in the form of a child. The Vaikuntanath, Narayan, the Supreme Lord of Vaikuntha, he's playing like a child in the court. Sachiyangan, in the courtyard of Sachimata in Navadip. So these pastimes, there's Bal Lila. And then there's Biddu Lila. That's the Kishore Lila, Joban Lila, Mahaprabhu's scholarly pastimes. He becomes a student. Jota Bhakya Gangadas Pandit Korin Shukrit Shunile Matra Thakur Dorin. Whatever Gangadas Pandit would say, Nimai would remember it hearing it once. It's extraordinary pastimes as a scholar. And very quickly he became the most renowned Nimai Pandit, Dvijamani, the crest jewel of the Navadip Brahmins, Navadip Chandra, the rising moon of Navadip society. Dvijamani he became. The Biddo Lila. And then Mahaprabhu's marriage to Lucky Priya, such beautifully described. That's in the Poganda Lila. And then he's traveling to Bangladesh, where he's educating, and Lucky Priya leaves the body, and he comes back, he again marries Vishnu Priya. All of this described. And then having come back from Gaya, where he performed the Shraddha ceremony of Jagannath Mishra, where he's initiated by Ishwar Puri Prabhupada, he comes back to Mayapur and begins the Sankirtan movement. Parama Adbhut Katha Maha Ashambhav Nimai Pandit Hoilo Parama Vaishnav. The Navadip devotees are astonished that our desires have been fulfilled, that our most cherished, heartfelt desire has been fulfilled. The Parama Adbhut Katha, the impossible, Maha Ashambhav, the most amazing, the most impossible Katha. Nimai Pandit Hoilo Parama Vaishnav. Nimai Pandit has become a great Vaishnav, and tears of love of Godhead are constantly flowing from his eyes. So this is the Adi Lila. And Adi Lila continues at Chaitanya Charitamrita. It continues up to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu accepting sannyas. So in Chaitanya Charitamrita, the Adi Lila is there's four chapters, chapters 14 to 17, describing the Navadip pastimes. They're a summary of what Srila Vrindavan Das Thakur has compiled in the Sri Chaitanya Bhagavat. Sri Chaitanya Bhagavat was compiled before the Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita and is considered the authorized biography of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Krishna Das Kaviraj Goswami himself explains that Krishna Lila Bhagavate Kohe Bed Vyas Muni, he compiled the pastimes of Sri Krishna in the Srimad Bhagavatam. Krishna Lila Bhagavate Kohe Bed Vyas, Chaitanya Lila Vyas Vrindavan Das. And that same Vyas Muni, he appears in the pastimes of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as Srila Vrindavan Das Thakur. And he compiles the Sri Chaitanya Bhagavat, which is called Bhagavat because it's written by the same author as the Bhagavatam of Krishna Lila. And in this way, what's described in 4 chapters in Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, four chapters summary, that's described in 45 chapters. That's the Adi Kanda and Madhya Kanda of Sri Chaitanya Bhagavat, 45 chapters, great detail of all Mahaprabhu's Navadip pastimes leading up, and his Sankirtan pastimes. There's 27 chapters. What's described in 2 chapters, Chaitanya Charitamrita summary, chapters 16 and 17 of Adi Lila, that's described in 27 chapters in Chaitanya Bhagavat. There's some Madhya Lila, Mahaprabhu's pastimes in inaugurating the Sankirtan movement, delivering Jagai Madai, delivering Chankasi, so many extraordinary pastimes described in great detail. And then ultimately Mahaprabhu takes sannyas in Katha. And now we'll be discussing what happened. So the Madhya Lila, Chaitanya Charitamrita is describing from the beginning of Mahaprabhu's sannyas, the Madhya Lila. And in the Chaitanya Bhagavat, that Mahaprabhu's sannyas is described at the end of the Madhya Kanda. So in Chaitanya Bhagavat was described in 10 chapters. That's Mahaprabhu's pastimes after taking sannyas. That's 10 chapters of Chaitanya Bhagavat. That's described in the Madhya Lila and Anta Lila Chaitanya Bhagavat, Chaitanya Charitamrita. So in this way, detail on Navadip pastimes in Chaitanya Bhagavat and detail on Mahaprabhu's preaching and sannyas pastimes and preaching and residence in Jagannath Puri in Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita. In this way, these two books combine to provide us the detailed, complete life description of pastimes of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And simply by hearing these pastimes, Sri Gauda Modu Lila Jaar Kone Probe Shila, those whose ears, these sweet pastimes, Gauda Modu Lila, like honey, Modu. Sri Gauda Modu Lila, Jaar Kone Probe Shila, those whose ears they enter into Ridor Nirmal Bhalodar, the heart becomes completely purified. So Vrindavan Das Thakur and Krishna Das Kaviraj Goswami, they have given us such nectar. They have given us such nectar. Just by hearing, we can actually merge our consciousness, merge our mind into the pastimes of the Lord. We can feel his presence in the words that, hearing the words that he speaks, hearing the seeing and witnessing the way that he interacts with his devotees. And this is the great treasure that Krishna Das Kaviraj Goswami and Srila Vrindavan Das Thakur have given us. So let's look now in specifically at the Madhya Lila, Chaitanya Charitamrita. We've mentioned what Adi Lila, we've mentioned what that is. And now Madhya Lila, now the first chapter of Madhya Lila, what Krishna Das Kaviraj Goswami has done is that a little like similarly, Srila Prabhupada, he compiled the Krishna book in 1970, Krishna book. That is the summary of the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. Prabhupada commented that he'd already completed the first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, and Prabhupada commented that he wasn't, not sure how long he'll be with us on the planet. So therefore, he projected forward and Srila Prabhupada summarized the entire content of the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam as summarized in the Krishna book. And that was distributed as mass distribution, public distribution, Krishna book, mass distribution on the streets. We got the Krishna book ourselves on the streets, Melbourne, Australia, a long time ago, 35 years ago, Krishna book being distributed. And Prabhupada, he felt that he would give the summary of the 10th canto in the case that he wasn't able to remain with us long enough to complete everything. So here we see that Kaviraj Goswami, Krishna's Kaviraj Goswami, in the beginning of the Madhya Lila, at the end of the Adi Lila, beginning of Madhya Lila, he's given a summary. He's given chapter 1 is a summary of the Madhya Lila, of Mahaprabhu's pastimes. He's traveling Tar Modde Choi Bochur Gamon Agamon, the 6-year period in the Madhya Lila of Gamon Agamon, coming and going. Kabu Dokin, Kabu Gaur, Kabu Vrindavan, Kabu Dokin, Mahaprabhu's South Indian tour. Kabu Gaur, he went to Bengal and delivered Rupa and Sanatan, and Kabu Vrindavan, and then eventually he went to Vrindavan. And upon returning from Vrindavan, he instructed Rupa Goswami and Sanatan Goswami, Prakasananda Saraswati. And in South India, he instructed Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, Ramananda Roy. And in this way, the principal teachings of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu are given during his travels, which are described in Madhya Lila. And that's the whole of Madhya Lila, Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, is summarized in chapter 1. That's summarized for the purpose, Kaviraj Goswami is explaining for the purpose in which that he may not finish everything, so at least it's a summary of all Mahaprabhu's Lila, in Madhya Lila in chapter 1. And chapter 2 of Madhya Lila is the ecstatic is called the ecstatic pastimes of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. That's a summary of the Anta Lila. Chapter 2, Madhya Lila, is summary of the Anta Lila, the final section, the Anta, final pastimes of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in Jagannath Puri, where he goes into deep ecstasy, Radha Bhav, and he's demonstrating ecstatic symptoms and performing all sorts of extraordinary activities and demonstrating amazing bodily symptoms as he's overwhelmed with Radha Prem, love of Godhead, in the mood of Sri Radhika, the esoteric pastimes, Mahaprabhu's final pastimes, Antul Lila. So that's described, that's summarized in the second chapter. That's summarized in the second, Mahaprabhu's final pastimes are summarized in the second chapter of the Madhya Lila. So now the third chapter of Madhya Lila, which is what we're going to be discussing in detail. This describes actually the actual detailed pastimes which occurred after Chaitanya Mahaprabhu accepted sannyas. And particularly, we'll be focusing in this section on Mahaprabhu's special relationship and affection toward the Navadip Bhaktagon, the devotees from Mayapur, from Gaudiya Bhaktagon, the devotees from Bengal and the different places there, and his special affection toward them. And the reasons why Chaitanya Mahaprabhu went to Jagannath Puri, all of these will be revealed in this section of verses. So we're reading from text number 3 of Madhya Lila, Jai Jai Shri Chaitanya, Jai Nityananda, Jai Advaita Chandra, Jai Gaur Bhakta. 24 বছর শেষ সেই মাঘ মাস তার শুক্লপক্ষে প্রভু করিল সন্ন্যাস. So it was at the Magh Mash, that's a winter time, Magh Mash, and we'll see that that's January, February, March, Mahaprabhu, after taking sannyas, he journeyed to Jagannath Puri over that 3-month period, and this is being described. The end of the Magh Mash, he accepted sannyas. Text 4, Shannash Kuri, Prema Beshe, Cholila Brindavan, Radha Deshe, Tinden, Korila Brahman. This particular theme of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Cholila Brindavan, his desiring to go to Brindavan, is manifesting again and again throughout the pastimes of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. His deep desire to go to Brindavan. It's interesting that ultimately Mahaprabhu, he only spends a short time in Vrindavan, a week or so, but his desire, his Vrindavan, his meditation on Vrindavan, he's always thinking about Vrindavan, always desiring to go to Vrindavan. So sannyas, and we'll hear that the reason why he's accepting sannyas is to be able to fulfill that desire. Shannash Kori, Prema Beshe, overwhelmed with love of God. Just imagine the effect. We undergo such ceremonies, just like there's an initiation ceremony in our movement. It's given by Srila Prabhupada, the initiation ceremony. Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur also, he had initiation ceremonies. A ceremony, the fire yagya, the Brahmins, the Vaishnavas, the assembly of public is also there. And there is a sanskar, a major event, an impression. The name is given, the vows are made, the initiation ceremony. So similarly, Mahaprabhu, he went through an initiation ceremony. He doesn't need to do these things. I mean, he's the Supreme Personality of Godhead, so he's not requiring any ritualistic activity for purification. Even advanced devotees, we see what we'll hear it discussed here. Sannyas even not required. Everyone's already on the elevated consciousness. So Mahaprabhu, he accepted sannyas. He went and accepted sannyas. It's extraordinary that the precise detail with which Mahaprabhu performs his pastimes is very significant. He doesn't need to take sannyas. Even the great Vaishnavas, they don't need to take sannyas. So, but Mahaprabhu, he intentionally goes and he finds a sannyas guru. Even that sannyas guru, he's not a Vaishnava. Keshav Bharati, he wasn't Vaishnava. So that may be a reason, let's just skip it. We're already fully engaged. We don't need to go through these ritual things. They're Vedic, they're out of date anyway. No, even it wasn't Vaishnava guru, but Mahaprabhu specifically demonstrated undergoing the sannyas ceremony. So he's demonstrating that to show us that these things, that these aspects of the Vedic culture, which are incorporated in the Gaudiya culture, they're very important. And the ceremony itself, just like you remember, I was initiated 35 years ago. We remember the incident. We remember the incident, has a deep impression on the mind. So Mahaprabhu, he's undergoing this head shaving. Those of you who may not have shaved your heads, men, ladies, don't shave the head. You can keep the hair. Of course, when you're old, widow, you can do. But ladies not shaving their head in our movement. But the men, Prabhupada wanted every fortnight, at least every Purnima, all the men. Prabhupada wanted all the men to be shaved, completely shaved head, every Purnima. Shaving one's head is very purifying. It's very purifying. Shaving one's head is very purifying. You have to experience it to understand. It's very purifying. You feel very purified on a shaven head. The ego, the projecting one's projecting one's persona. I'm like this, I'm like that. The shaven head, it's just all gone. Just who Nitya Krishna Das, the servant of Krishna. Very humbling. Shaving the head. And this is an aspect of Mahaprabhu's sannyas. Before he was initiated in Vaishnava Diksha, but did not shave in head. Mahaprabhu and Nityananda Prabhu, they're taking initiation. Nityananda Prabhu initiated, some say by Madhavendra Puri, some say by Lakshmipati Tirtha. In any case, he was initiated with mantra. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu initiated, Vaishnava initiated, but he's not shaving his head. Not shaving his head. He's performing a Shankirtan with the lamba chul, with his long hair, beautiful hair, as he's dancing through the streets of Navadip and through the villages in the morning with the devotees. Long hair, beautiful hair. You see that we're worshipping Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, beautiful long hair. So actually, the hair shaving is not required. It's not compulsory for taking initiation in Krishna consciousness. As we mentioned, those of you who, of course, when you take sannyas, at least at that time, and keep it shaven. But on occasion, if you get a chance to shave one's head on a festival, Janmashtami, Vyasa Puja coming up, or Rath Yatra, shave one's head. And these days, there's no issue. So many men have shaved head anyway, materialistic people. So we encourage you to try, have the experience. You become attached. It's very purifying. Very wonderful. So Mahaprabhu, he went and shaved his head. That's a whole detailed leela we won't discuss today. Mahaprabhu Shannash Leela, there's two or three chapters of Sri Chaitanya Bhagavat. How they went to Katha and the devotees are there, and the ladies are all wailing in tears. Oh, who invented this sannyas ceremony anyway? Oh. And it took all day. The barber was just so hesitant. He couldn't take the blade and cut. You might say that there's a Kesha Shamadi. You go to Katha, you'll see the hair. Nimai's beautiful black flowing hair was put into samadhi. Nimai Chandra, Navadip Chandra, Dvijamani, his hair, the cutting, sannyas, they took that hair, they put it in samadhi. You can go to Katha, you can see the chul samadhi of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, where his hair was put in samadhi. So having shaven his head, you could just imagine his consciousness, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, in life, wearing the sannyas, the saffron robes of the sannyasi. It was very, the sannyas of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is very abrupt, very abrupt. He's there as a householder. He's going home from school. He's teaching. He's sitting. He's worshipping Tulasi. And Loki, Vishnu Priya is coming. She's putting the prasadam. Sachimatra is there. They're chatting. He's taking prasadam. He's completely absorbed in householder life, teaching. And then a few days later, he's in saffron cloth. He's a sannyasi shaven head. It's very abrupt, very quick. He's gone, sannyas. It doesn't happen like that these days in ISKCON. You have to have many years on the sannyasi list, many years. Even the brahmacharis are already in saffron. There are many years on the sannyasi list, approvals, training, and then there's sannyas. What to speak of those who are coming from grihastha? It's not possible just in a few days. In the past, it was. Tamal Krishna Maharaj, we celebrated his Vyasa Puja last week. Tamal Krishna Maharaj. He was in Juhu. His wife was there. He was in Juhu. He had no child. His wife was there. They were young, recently married. Prabhupada was in Jaipur. He went to Jaipur, weekend program. He didn't come back. He took sannyas. In those days, it was possible. Prabhupada was there. Dhamma Krishna Maharaj, such a hero, he could do it. Nowadays, you can't do that. So Mahaprabhu accepted sannyas. He's accepted sannyas. Shannash Kori Prema Beshe Cholila Vrindavan. And overwhelmed with love of Godhead, he's going to Vrindavan. He's going to Vrindavan. This is an absorption. It's like an obsession. He wanted to go to Vrindavan when he was first initiated. He wanted to go to Vrindavan. And now sannyas. Okay, now that's it. Everything, no other duties. He's going to Vrindavan. Now Radha Deshe Tindin Korila Brahman Radha Deshe. Now it's interesting that Radha Desh is actually not in relation to Sri Radhika. It's a different word, although we tend to think that Radha Desh means Radha, the place of Srimati Radharani, but it's a different word, it's a different R. It's not Radha, it's Radha. And it's a derivation of a Rastra. Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur was explaining. Rastra Desh. It was called Rastra Desh. So it became Radha Desh. So Radha Desh. The place where the Ganga does not flow. He's wandering there. And at that time, Mahaprabhu, he's thinking, he's meditating. Whilst wandering around in Radha Desh and overwhelmed with love of Godhead, Mahaprabhu is thinking and he's speaking. Prabhu Kohe. This is text number 8. Paratma Nishta Matro Besh Daron. I've accepted this cloth, this saffron cloth. I've accepted it for Paratma Nishta. Paratma Nishta means dedicating oneself to the service of Mukunda. Mukunda Sebaya Hoy Shangshar Daron. And in this way, Mukunda Shebaya, by service of Mukunda, by dedicating oneself completely to the service of Mukunda, Mukunda Shebaya Hoy Shangshar Daron. I will be able to liberate myself from the material world. Actually, by serving Mukunda, one can actually be liberated from the bondage of material existence. Now, this is very significant that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he's thinking in this way because he doesn't even require to consider being liberated from material bondage, because not only is he already a liberated soul, but he's the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So even a liberated soul, you can cross over the influence of the material energy by Mam cha jo vyabhicharena bhakti jogena shevate shagunan shamatitaitam. Mam cha yo vyabhicharena bhakti jogena shevate, by unflinching devotional service to Sri Krishna. Sagunan samatitaitan, you can overcome the influence of the modes of nature. Sagunan samatitaitan brahma bhuyaya kalpate, and attain the spiritual platform that we can attain. Even the jiva can attain liberation from the material modes of nature and attain the perfect platform. So such a person doesn't require to accept sannyas. What to speak of the Lord himself? There's no question of the Lord being affected by the material nature, but why he's doing this, why he's demonstrating this? He's demonstrating this to teach humanity at large. He's personal. This is very astonishing that the Supreme Godhead accepts sannyas. In Mahabharata, Suvarna is predicted about this particular feature of the Chaitanya avatar. Suvarna Varna Hemago Varanga Chandanangadi Shanyasha Kriksha Shamaha Shanta Nishta Shanti Prana. Suvarna Varna Hemango, his golden limbs, Hema Ango. Chandan Suvarna Varna Hema Varanga Chandanangadi, which are anointed by the sandalwood paste. Sannyasa Kriksha. He accepts the sannyas. It's very extraordinary because there's no other incarnation of the Lord that accepts sannyas. Sannyas is tapasya. Mahaprabhu gave up his home. He gave up the affection of Sachimata and Vishnupriya. They were ideal wife, ideal mother, ideal household life. No anxiety, no argument, no bickering. He's living perfectly happy household life, surrounded with affectionate dealings with the Sachimata and Vishnupriya. He gave that up. That's difficult for anyone. The happiness of the home life, comfortable in Navadip, devotees. He's teaching. It's such a happy family life, such association. He gave that up. That's a big step. And even not necessary. Why? Because Mahaprabhu is showing the point. How important is commitment to the service of the Lord, commitment to the mission of the Lord? He's prepared to give up everything. Even the Supreme Lord, who doesn't require to undergo such difficulties, he accepts to inspire us, Prabhupada's commenting the sannyas dress is actually an attraction for material formality. Being the highest post in the Varnashram system, sannyasi actually is very formal. And ISKCON sannyasi is going one event to another, opening centers, opening temples, very formal. Sannyas life in ISKCON, very formal. Mahaprabhu did not like such formality, but he wanted the essence of it, a service to Mukunda. Conclusion is that sannyas order depends not on the dress, but the determination to serve Mukunda. So Mahaprabhu is emphasizing that. He's taking it all the way. He's personally, even though it's not required, he's personally accepting sannyas. Sheibesh koilo ebe brindavan giya. Now he's saying, this is a very important verse. This is never discussed, but Mahaprabhu is saying this, that Sheibesh koilo, I've accepted this sannyas cloth. Sheibesh koilo, I've accepted this dress and shaven my head, the danda, I've accepted the dress of a sannyasi. Ebe, now Brindavan Giya, I will go to Brindavan. Because there's no reason why I shouldn't. Now I can go. Ebe Brindavan Giya. Krishna, Nishebon Kori, Nibrita Boshiya. Krishna Nishebon Kori, Nibrita Boshiya. I will go to Vrindavan, having accepted this dress. I will go to Vrindavan, Krishna Nishebon Kori, and worship Krishna and serve Krishna. Nibrita Boshiya, alone in Vrindavan. Nibrita Boshiya, alone in Vrindavan. Sitting in a solitary place, engage himself wholly and solely in the service of Mukunda. Prabhupada is translating. Now that's very interesting, that we know that Mahaprabhu's appearance, he appears Chaitanya Avatar to distribute love of Godhead all over the world, freely distribute. Kali Juge, Juga Dharma, Name Prochar, Toti Lage, Pita Varna Chaitanya Avatar, Toti Lage, for that reason, Name Prochar, because Juga Dharma, Name Prochar, the religion for the age is the propagation of the holy name. Toti Lage, for that reason, Toti Lage, Pita Varna, in the yellow color, Pita Varna, Chaitanya Avatar. He appears, he is descended, he has appeared in this world in the yellow form of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to Name Prochar, to distribute the holy name all over the planet. That's the purpose. Prithividi ache joto, Nagoradi gram, Shabatra Prochar hobe mo nam. Shabatra Prochar in all Nagoradi gram, in every town and village, Prithividi on the planet. Hoibe Prochar, my name will be preached. So this is the purpose of his incarnation. But there's a sentiment here. He's saying that now, Shebesh Koilo, Ebe Brindavan Giya, I will, having accepted this sannyas, now I will go to Vrindavan, Krishna Nishevan Kori Nibrita Boshiya, and sit alone and worship Krishna. So if his reason for appearing as Chaitanya Avatar is to preach and spread the holy name, why is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu saying this? That he wants to go to Vrindavan and simply worship Krishna alone? It seems incompatible. No, it's not incompatible, because yes, everyone should have such a desire. We'll be busy in the Sankirtan movement and the mission of the Guru. We're going to give our life, we're giving our life for propagating and expanding this movement, whatever it takes to expand this movement, whatever it takes to make it known to people in general that the Hare Krishna mantra is available for you freely. And by chanting it, you can solve all of your trouble in life. You can free yourself from all your suffering, and you go back home to Godhead and attain eternal residence in the spiritual world, serving Krishna in association of loving Vaishnavas. All of this can be attained, no charge, just chant Hare Krishna. So this information has to be made known. Probably your neighbors do not even know that. Probably your neighbors, the people in your street, the people, your work colleagues, your friends, they do not know that. So we make it our business, if we want to become the Vaishnava Priya, if we want to dear to the spiritual master, dear to Prabhupada, then we ease that, we accept the responsibility, we take on the business. This is the business of Prabhupada. Look what Prabhupada did. Prabhupada was living such a happy life in Vrindavan. Beautiful temple, Radha Damana, Rupa Goswami. He gave all that up and went to New York, unknown place, living on the Bowery. Because even living in Vrindavan and worshipping Krishna alone, compared to that, preaching Krishna consciousness all over the world, more important. So Mahaprabhu, Prabhupada, but still we have the desire. Yes, we'll give our life to spreading the Sankirtan movement, whatever, last breath. But still we have the desire like this. Mahaprabhu has the desire to go to Vrindavan, Krishna, Nishevan Kori Nibrita Bosya, and simply alone worship Krishna. Etaboli saying this, I'm going to Vrindavan to be alone and worship Krishna. Etaboli, Chale Prabhu, Premon Made Chinha. Premon Made Chinha, the symptoms, manifesting the symptoms of madness of love. Etaboli, Chale Prabhu, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is gone. En route to Vrindavan, all the ecstatic symptoms became manifest. Prabhupada is translating. Etaboli, Chale Prabhu, Premon Made Chinha, Premon Made Chinha, all the symptoms of love of God in manifesting. Dig Bidek Gyan, Dig Bidek Gyan. Dig Bidek Gyan means Dig Bidek, knowledge of right and wrong direction. Dig Bidek. Dig Bidek Gyan, knowledge of right to wrong direction. Nahi, Dig Bidek Gyan Nahi, Kiba Ratri Din. Etabole Chale Prabhu, Premon Mader Chinha. Dig Bidek Gyan Nahi, Kiba Ratri Din. He doesn't know what direction to go in. He doesn't know whether it's day or night. He doesn't know whether it's day or night. Imagine that level of love of Godhead. You're so absorbed in love of Godhead, you don't know if it's day or night. You don't know what direction you're going in. Nityananda, Acharya Ratna, Mukunda, Tinjon. Nityananda, Acharya Ratna, Mukunda. Tinjon, these three devotees are with him. He's accepted sannyas. They were there in Katha, along with others. Chandrasekhar. And Nityananda, Acharya Ratna. And you'll see the Mahaprabhu, he orders Chandrasekhar now. Chandrasekhar was there. So, Prabhu, Pache Pache, Tiner, Korean, Gamon, Nityananda, Acharya Ratna, Mukunda, Tinjon. These three devotees, Nityananda, Acharya Ratna, Mukunda, Tinjon. Three people. Prabhu, Pache Pache, they're following Prabhu. Tiner, Korean, Gamon, they're following him as he's wandering through the Radhadesh. They're following him. They're not exactly with him, but they're following him. Not exactly with him, they're following him. Now listen to the preaching. Listen to the style of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's preaching as he's wandering into Radhadesh, text number 12, chapter 3. Jai Jai Prabhu Dekhe Shay Shay Lok Prema Beshe Hari Bole Konde Dukha Shok. Jai Jai Prabhu Dekhe. Whoever saw Prabhu, this is his preaching, that just by seeing him. Jai Jai Dekhe. Jai Jai Prabhu Dekhe. Whoever saw Prabhu. Shay Shay Lok. All of those people. Whoever saw him. Prema Beshe, in love, overwhelmed, they become ecstatic in love just by seeing him. Jai Jai Prabhu Dekhe, Shay Jai Lok, just by seeing, whoever sees him. Prema Beshe, they become overwhelmed with love of God. Prema Beshe, and Hari Bole, Konde Dukha Shok, and they start chanting the holy name, and all of their miseries are removed. So as we mentioned, Mahaprabhu, he's saying that, oh yes, I'm just going to Vrindavan alone. I'm going to worship Sri Krishna. And what direction I'm going in, I don't know. Whether it's day or night, I don't know. But actually, he's here. His actual objective is to deliver all the conditioned souls. It appears that Vrindavan, they're going to Vrindavan is just some pastime, but actually here, he's giving his association to the people in general. Radhadesh, just by seeing him, they become overwhelmed with love of Godhead and start chanting the holy name, and all of their misery and suffering is destroyed. Whoever saw him in ecstasy exclaimed, Hari, Hari, And as they chanted, all the unhappiness of material existence diminished. So then, Nityananda Prabhu, he begins, he's there with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and now he'll begin to make an arrangement. We'll see now the Gopal Balak, the cowherd boys are mentioned. And they're also seeing the Lord and chanting Hari Hari. And now Lord Nityananda, he'll speak to them, and he'll begin to make an arrangement with these cowherd boys in order to bewilder Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, to deter him from going to Vrindavan and bringing him to Shantipur. And wherein Mahaprabhu, upon discussing with the devotees and Sachimata, and he makes his decision to go to Jagannath Puri. And we'll be discussing all of that in this session next week. And if there are any questions on the topics of today, we were discussing a little bit of an overview. Madhya-lila, how it's discussing the overview in the beginning chapter as the Madhya-lila summarized, second chapter is the Anta-lila summarized. And now the significance of Mahaprabhu taking sannyas, even though not required, he's taking that, he's undergoing that ceremony for purification in order to inspire us. He has the desire to go to Vrindavan. It's a constant remembrance in Mahaprabhu's heart. His actual objective is distributing love of God and liberating all the conditioned souls. And even now on this path, when he's wandering aimlessly in the Radha Desh, Nityananda Prabhu and the others are a little distant away still, and this time Mahaprabhu freely distributing love of Godhead. Just by seeing him, people are overwhelmed with love of Godhead, chanting the holy name and delivered from all material entanglement. So any questions on the discussion today?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. That's so nice to hear you. The Radha Desh, first time I was always wondering, this word is Radha Desh, is it connected to Radharani, and now it's not the way Ra, it has come from Rashtra and something. Yeah. That was very nice. And also the Chaitanya Mahaprabhu desire to go to Vrindavan, intense desire. At the same time, he stays there only 1 week, and overall, the desire in a devotee to serve Krishna, go to Vrindavan is strong, but it doesn't give up all his services. And Chaitanya continues to preach, even though he's traveling. There is something new to learn today. Hare Krishna. Yes, Vilas Prabhuji, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu, Dandavat Pranam. Just actually, we have started to read the Gujarati Chaitanya Charitamrita. One of the devotee asked, just now we have started Srimad Bhagavatam. How we can jump over to the Chaitanya Charitamrita? So
this is Vilas Kumar's question.
Yes. Prabhuji, what has happened practically in all languages now, we have been reading Chaitanya Charitamrita, and in some languages we have finished one round. So
you finished in some languages. You finished what?
One reading together.
Yeah, the whole Chaitanya Charitamrita completed.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. No. Vilas Kumar question. Yes. Yeah. No. Kona chintana. Yeah. No. There's no mistake. There's no offense. There's no discrepancy in procedure here. Just Mahajaniyana Katha Sapanta. The path we follow is that which is the example of the great Mahajan, the great Acharyas. So Prabhupada, is, although we don't often hear it, but Prabhupada's traveling on Jaladuta, and he has the Srimad Bhagavatams in the trunk. Actually, the Dokin Bharat down there in Cochin. Cochin is Kerala. There, the Srimad Bhagavatam was loaded onto the Jaladuta, not in Kolkata. Prabhupada got on in Kolkata and went down the east coast and Colombo. I think Prabhupada got off the boat in Colombo, and then up west coast, and then Kerala, and then Cochin. The boat stopped there. That's where the Bhagavatam was put on. So that was Prabhupada's his cargo, Bhagavatam's cargo. Now, actually, it mentions that Prabhupada is reading the Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita. He mentions in his diary, you see, I'm getting solace from reading Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita. What does that mean? That means that Prabhupada had his own personal copy of Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita with him on Jaladuta. Yes, because in 1966 in New York, when Prabhupada's first giving the classes, he's giving Bhagavad Gita. There was no Bhagavad Gita as it is, actually. There was Bhagavad Gita, Dr. Radha Krishna. He was the, I think, president of India. Prabhupada was using his Bhagavad Gita, the translations, but he was an impersonalist. Prabhupada sometimes refers to that because Prabhupada's Macmillan Bhagavad Gita was not published. That was published in 67, 68. So in 66, Prabhupada was reading from that other just Gita verses, but he was also, in 1966, you can see Prabhupada giving class on Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita. In 1966 in New York, you can see the classes, this whole stretch of classes on Madhya Lila, chapter 20. That's the Sanatana Shikha. Sanatana Shikha. I find it very fascinating that Prabhupada, he focuses on that section, Sanatana Shikha. And in 1966, he's giving classes on Sanatana Shikha. So what devotees didn't even have Bhagavad Gita. What to speak of the whole Bhagavatam? They had the first canto of the Bhagavatam. So Bilash Kumar, the answer is that Jasmin Pratishlokam Abadabatapi, wherever you read, it doesn't matter. You can start it, you can read in the end, you can begin at the end if you want. Doesn't matter. Of course, in our temples, we have the standard procedure, verse by verse. Every day we're doing in the Bhagavatam and in the evening Gita. Chaitanya Charitamrita not included in that daily schedule, have to fit it in somewhere. So that goes on, but that doesn't mean that you can only read Chaitanya Charitamrita when you've read the Bhagavatam. That's not what it means. In our temple, standard verse by verse reading is going on. But you can read it. You can read any section of Bhagavatam. You can read any of Prabhupada's books anytime, whatever you're inspired to. There's no rule. There's no rule against that. Any books, anything of Prabhupada, you can read it at any time. And if you have a program where you're reading everything in order, that's wonderful. But that's the only way you can read. No. Anyway, and Chaitanya Charitamrita, Monadiye Shunabai Sri Chaitanya Kotar, Bhakti Shange Jai Leela Koilo, Chota. Actually, Vrindavan Thakur, he's recommending you hear with attention, Monadiye Shunabai Sri Chaitanya Kotar, the pastimes of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Bhakti Shange, along with his devotees, Jai Leela Koilo, Chota, the pastimes he's performed with his devotees as they happen one after another. In fact, we can confidently say that the details, the impact of the Chaitanya Lila given in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, it's more intense, it's more detailed than you'll find in the Srimad Bhagavatam. The actual intensity, the depth, the detail to which Mahaprabhu's pastimes are described, and the intimacy that we are invited to participate at such intimate level, so close. And the Lord is dealing with his devotees in the pastimes and the language he's speaking and the subtleties of his interaction. It is very, very detailed. It is very detailed. And Bengali is easy language. So actually, why wait? Why wait? Dive into the nectar of the Sri Chaitanya Kotha. Dive into that. As soon as there's any interest to hear the pastimes of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, that should be cultivated. And by such hearing of the Gaur Kotha of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's pastimes, you'll develop the Gauda Prema. You'll develop real attachment, real appreciation, real love for Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. That is the goal of life.
Thank you, Prabhuji, so much. Thank you so much for clarification. Dandavat Pranam. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Hema Mataji.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam. Hare Krishna to all devotees. Prabhuji, I want to ask, when the Chaitanya Mahaprabhu took the sannyasa, that time the Advaita Acharya was present, because Advaita Acharya just prayed, and because of his prayers on the Shaligram, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came on the earth. So is this, means at the time of sannyasa, Advaita Acharya was present that time? When he took sannyasa?
I don't think so, Hema. I have to check it, but in recollection, I don't think Advaita Acharya was there. No, in fact, because we'll see next week, we'll hear that Mahaprabhu, he took sannyas, he's wandering in Radhadesh, he's wandering, and then he jumps into Ganga and he floats down to Shantipur, and Advaita Thakur is there. Yes. So Advaita Thakur, he didn't go to Katwa. He wasn't in Katwa when Mahaprabhu took sannyas. He was in Shantipur the whole time.
Whole time he was staying at the Shantipur.
Yeah, he was in Shantipur the whole time. And Mahaprabhu, he left Mayapur, went to Katwa, that's north, and then he came down through Mayapur and then to Shantipur. We'll describe that in more detail in subsequent weeks.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
He was in Shantipur the whole time.
Hare Krishna.
Shall we take the question from Her Grace Aishwarya Shobhadra Devi Dashi?
Yes. Yes, Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Pranam. Prabhu, you just mentioned in the beginning that Mahaprabhu as Nimai went to Gaya and did his final rites for his father, Jagannath Mishra. So even Lord Ramchandramurti did the same thing to set an example. But then in Srimad Bhagavatam, 11th canto says about we don't owe any oblations to the ancestors. They were Shri Buddha Nunam Pedranam. So if a Krishna conscious person, so how does it apply in our life?
That's a good question. That's a good question. Now, considering first of all the circumstances of Lord Chaitanya, Jagannath Mishra departed, and then Mahaprabhu, he went to perform a Shraddha in Gaya. Now, at that time, Mahaprabhu, he wasn't a preacher of the Sankirtan movement. He wasn't a preacher. He wasn't formally preaching Sankirtan. He hadn't inaugurated the Sankirtan movement. He was just Navadip Chandra. He was just a scholar of Navadip, and he wasn't even performing Sankirtan with the Vaishnavas. He wasn't doing that. He was performing Vidya Lila and enjoying the past scholarly pastimes and defeating the other scholars and household life. So naturally, under such circumstances, it's totally required for him, under the circumstances, to go to Gaya. So the Gaya and perform the Shraddha. Otherwise, he would be rejected from the Navadip Brahminical society. It's a responsibility, of course. From the Navadip, the Hindu society, he would be rejected. He had to do that. So no choice. He had to do that. Then coming back, he gets initiated, and then coming back and then inaugurating Sankirtan, and then serving Lord Krishna. Krishna, Shraddha Kohe Bishash, Shraddha Sabda Bishash Kohe Suddhara Nishchoy, Krishna Bhakti Koile Sharva Kamra Kritta Hoy. That's the conclusion, is that Krishna Bhakti Koile, if you're accepted initiation, you're following the order of the spiritual master, you're dedicated your life, then you don't need to do these things. Because you get the results of all such things just by following the order of spiritual master and worshipping Krishna. But Mahaprabhu, he was not at that time, he wasn't performing pastime like that. He was performing pastime just like ordinary Navadip Brahmin. So naturally, totally required for him to go and perform that function. And also at that time, it was holy place. Mahaprabhu wanted to do a pilgrimage, and there in the holy place, he met the sage Ishwara Puri. So all of these objectives were fulfilled simultaneously.
Yes, Prabhu. Hare Krishna, thank you.
Hare Krishna.
So we'll conclude at that point, and we'll carry on next week. We'll go back to Shantipur and Mahaprabhu at the house of Advaita Acharya. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, everybody. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Thank you for such a wonderful lesson.
Krishna Prabhu.
The
Wonderful class.
Krishna Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Hare Krishna
Prabhu, Hare Krishna. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji.
So now, just an announcement. Those like to come 20th, that is now 9 days now, there is Rathosava again, because Jagannath Rathosava, we have a Ratha, we are taking our deities, Radha Govinda, on one more Rathosava. In fact, I want to make it weekly affair. So whenever you come, we can do Rathosava. So those who missed last time Rathosava, if you are nearby Mangalore, just come over. Okay? Okay, Hare Krishna, because it may rain, huh? It may, we are in the rainy season, so it may still rain, but no problem. We just like to give one more tour to our deities of the place we are in. Hare Krishna.